Okay, this meeting is now being recorded. My name is Indira and I'm with the Iowa After School Alliance. And today we have Joe Schwanebeck with the Science Center of Iowa. And I will turn it over to Joe to introduce himself.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Indira, and thank you everybody for being on the webinar today. It's truly an honor to be here presenting for the group. While I kind of get going, if you will do me a favor, and in the chat box, type a simple yes or no if you've been down to the Science Center here in Des Moines. And then also where in the state you're from. And I didn't get my directions out to you fast enough, so you are ahead of me already, which is great. I'm going to go ahead and click to the next slide while you're typing in here. So this is me maybe about 5 days out of the year. Luckily, I don't have to put on a suit and tie too much for my job. What I really enjoy is more this kind of look. This was me shortly after I started with the Science Center about 6 years ago as an outreach presenter, traveling across the state and doing science experiments. And those days are our on-site program. So if you bring a school field trip here, or I'm going to scroll up the chat here real quick. Cool. A lot of us have, some of us haven't. Some from here in Des Moines, some I thought I would just do kind of a quick tour of the Science Center. We're located in downtown Des Moines, where that little green star is, kind of across the street from Principal Park, if you know where that is. So we're right in the heart of downtown. There's our lovely building. And here's our team waving, not just at you. This was actually a special event this last summer. There was a Cassini spacecraft that got sent out to take pictures of Saturn, and the Earth actually photobombed. If you're familiar with that term, somebody jumps in the background of a picture. The Earth was actually in the back. I like this picture because probably our most popular one is when things get moving. People call it the rocket room or the egg drop room. Really hands-on. A lot of interactive things to do. Also upstairs is our planetarium and our Why the Sky, our astronomy-themed platform. Turtles, that kind of stuff. This is really neat because we found, especially with a lot of urban students, sometimes it's their first exposure to sort of natural wildlife, which is really neat. Okay, with Puff, one of our snakes. And then if you haven't been here since this past summer, there might be a couple of new things to see, one of which is our Eureka Lab, all kind of air and energy and waves. Again, really interactive. That's our air cannon and shimmer wall that's right up front there. And then our nano exhibit. This was a nationally developed exhibit that we applied for and got a copy of. So if you do a lot of travel, 5 to 100 of these that are all focused on nanotechnology that are located across the country, and we're lucky to have one of those here too. And then right now our small discovery is sort of our toddler themed room. We're actually ripping out right now, and on March 14th, or Pi Day, it'll return with some new and improved updates. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be really exciting. And just a couple of quick hits here. Also, we've got our blank IMAX Dome Theater. And I always have to give that caveat. Blank is the name of the family that supported the building of the IMAX Dome Theater. Whenever I go to a conference, somebody says, why would you have a theater that's blank, that doesn't show anything? So a lot of you might be familiar with that family name, but if not, that's the reason for calling it that. And then one more on site here. Different themes like chemistry. There's one on crime scene science. There's one All right, but what I heard that might be most useful for you is our outreach programs that travel across the state. And this is our brand new outreach van. In fact, it's so new I haven't even seen the inside inside of this. It just got delivered this past week. But we travel around to all 99 counties, and we'll look at some of the details here in just a minute. But the really nice thing is that we don't charge any mileage. So whether you're in Des Moines or Oskaloosa or Dubuque or Waukon, Iowa, it's the same cost, which is really nice. And we've got a very generous sponsor, Mid-American Energy, that helps underwrite that, so that can be a possibility. But I thought we'd kind of just take a look at the assembly style programs where we can see a small group or a large group up to about 250 students at a time, which I would think would capture all of your students in your after school programs. But if not, it's not a problem for us to do a couple of shows and make sure that we get everybody to experience the program. But these are really large demonstrations, so I say that's kind of where we blow up the big stuff. A balloon full of hydrogen gets lit on fire and makes a big fireball and a big loud explosion. Or actually, we'll see a few pictures of some of our demonstrations of a group of students, but they're really nice. They're a little bit more interactive. We still strive for our assembly programs to be interactive, so it's not just a sit and get kind of experience, but with the classroom style programs, they lend themselves to be a little more hands-on, a little more in-depth and interactive. So let's just kind of go down the menu here. And I had asked Indira, it sounds like elementary school is really kind of the focus of a lot of our programs. A couple of us deal with middle school students, and that's right in the kind of the sweet spot of a lot of our programs here. Starting with our most popular one, it's called BOOM, and that's the science of explosions. The great thing about this is that it's wonderful for a variety of ages, from kindergarten up through 8th grade. There's something in it for everyone, and who doesn't like explosions? There's a lot of really fundamental science that happens in here: temperature, pressure, states of matter, that kind of thing. But it's all centered around explosions. Pressure also, some explosions happening with that stuff. So it's not just a whiz bang show. It is a lot of fun, but there's a lot of learning and a lot of science that goes on with it too. And it looks like, Barbara, you do have some high school students and Heidi's got middle school. Cool. In a somewhat similar vein here to Boom, we have How'd They Do That? And this revolves around movie special effects and going kind of behind the scenes. The program starts out with how we watch movies. There's a phenomenon called persistence of vision. It's the same kind of thing as when you use a flip book and all those still pictures kind of blend together. Talk a little bit about how our eyes and our brains work, but then most of the program is spent sort of digging behind the scenes of how they make really cool stuff happen in movies. And the answer that you get a lot of times now is, oh, it's a green screen. You hit a couple buttons and make that stuff happen. So like Indiana Jones running away from the giant boulder in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Not a lot of green screens with that, but a lot of important lessons on things like density, so that we didn't injure Harrison Ford. That would have been a terrible tragedy. But things like that. So looking at kind of how things happen in movies and digging into the science behind it. Richard there you can make a fire go out and keep your actors and all of your crew safe on the movie set. Our next assembly, also demonstrated here by Richard, is Earth Plays Rough. This is severe weather and natural disasters. So talking about all the stuff that happens on the outside of the Earth and on the inside of the Earth, things like convection, moving air around, how our Earth systems work together. This is a great fit for 2nd through 8th grade. And he's demonstrating some fog there, mixing like warm air and cold ground, or cold air and warm ground. Simply electrifying. You see that young volunteer there with her hand on our Van de Graaff generator, making her hair stand up. It's kind of that classic science classroom experience. All about atoms and electrons, the different kinds of electricity, static and current. A little bit about Edison. Message in that. And we actually end the program by frying a pickle. Instead of one of us, say, putting our finger in an outlet to demonstrate how dangerous it would be, we use a brave volunteer stand-in, not a kid, not a child or a student, but a pickle. They actually have a similar water content to our bodies, conduct electricity really with students. So that's a little bit about our assembly programs. But I might dig in real quick and talk about our classroom style programs for the smaller groups. And for those of you with early childhood, I don't have a good picture of some of these programs, unfortunately. But one of them for preschool and 1st grade is Push, Pull, Roll, all about the science of simple machines. And we work together as a class to work through sort of a made-up story of building a treehouse in our backyard. And there's all kinds of problems that that are inherent in home construction like that, but we overcome them all with using some simple machines, some wheels, some inclined planes, some pulleys, and at the end we just for fun add a big catapult. Very safe, a lot of fun, and kind of an introduction to simple machines. And then What's Inside You? This is another one. This is our on-site version of it with a huge doll. Our traveling one doesn't come with the 8-foot tall doll. Our traveling one is about 2 feet tall, but it's the same basic program where we actually open up this doll and take a look at the systems inside the human body, how they work independently and how they all work together, and emphasize things like healthy nutrition, the importance of an active lifestyle and getting exercise. The other programs are 45 minutes. And Discovering Dinosaurs, another popular one. This one starts out with a story, very short one, but it has a lot of great science content in it. The dinosaur lived in my backyard. Taking a look at features and traits of different dinosaurs is a huge 3 periods that they were around, 65 to 250 or so million years ago. This one kind of has 2 versions. There's one for the younger crowd, preschool through 1st grade, is another 30-minute program, and 2nd through 4th is a 45-minute. Star Theater. We have a portable version. It's not digital. It is the old analog Star Lab. If any of you are familiar with that, you might have one in your district or your AEA. So we have a version that travels around, talks about stars and constellations. Some Egyptian sort of stories, and try and focus it on what's going to be up sort of that time of year, so that your students can actually go outside and see the real stuff that night and kind of know what to look for. I can't resist a good pun, so this has space requirements. To be able to inflate the planetarium, need a nice flat open floor space, about 25 feet by 25 feet, and a ceiling about 10 feet tall or so, to be able to set up that planetarium. Looks like a great big kind of duct tape igloo, but then we go inside, turn out the lights, and bring out the stars and constellations and all that kind of good stuff. Got just a couple more here. From rocks to gemstones, all about the difference in rocks and minerals, talking about the rock cycle, and then we end the program with mineral testing. So we talk about like the Mohs hardness scale and do some tests on some minerals, just like geologists do. And it's a really good fit. This one's really kind of focused in that late elementary, 2nd through 4th grade kind of curriculum. And lastly, robot reality, all about kind of comparing robots and humans. Talk about how robots think, the autonomous thinking and heuristic thinking that we do. Great fit for sort of 3rd through 8th grade, so creeping up through that middle school kind of grade level. We actually just added some new, well, toys, honestly, to this program called Cubelets, which lets students sort of program their own robots without needing to know any programming language. They're little sort of 2-inch by 2-inch cubes that each have a function, and depending on how you, they're all magnetized, so they kind of snap together. Depending on how you put them together depends on how your robot behaves. So the direction of your sensor or the direction of your action, say the little wheels, will change the behavior of your robot depending on how you put them together, which is really cool. We've had a lot of around. All of our programs are tied to the Iowa Core, as well as national science standards, and they will be tied to the next generation science standards. I know our state's sort of in the process of getting those And then I did, to kind of prepare for this, watched Deb Duncase's great webinar, and if you haven't seen it, I know Indira recorded that, and it's up on your YouTube channel too, and so if you haven't use quite a bit in all of our programs. So I talked a little bit about how our assembly programs, we still want them to be interactive, even if we can't have each student, volunteering for every experiment, just because of pure time. But using things like discrepant events, setting up a prediction and seeing if it comes true or not, and then taking those unexpected results and trying to find an explanation for it is a great tool to get kids thinking, and that's something that we strive to use in all of our programs. Looks like there are some questions here. How much time needs to be scheduled for the assembly programs? It takes us 45 minutes for that. But yeah, for assemblies, they're all 45 minutes. And excuse me, I apologize. I'm fighting off a little bit of a cold. I'm trying not to cough in anybody's ear here. And since we're kind of talking details here, costs, probably for most of you, I would guess a half-day visit for your after-school program is probably what's going to fit best, 1 or 2 programs. And then there's no mileage or travel. There's also no supply fees. You don't have to pay for liquid nitrogen or any of that. It's all sort of inclusive. Some of you might be able to partner with. I'm assuming you take place. Your site is a school. Some of you might be able to partner with your school and do a full day visit. So we're visiting students during the day, and then maybe 1 or 2 programs for the after school program. to kind of bundle and share costs. Between you, me, and this webinar, I don't want costs to be prohibitive. So if you're looking at that, but that's a secret. Okay. I mentioned earlier, and just wanted to recognize them here. Mid-American Energy does a lot to support our program, and they are a big reason why we can travel across the state, all 99 counties, and not charge any kind of mileage or anything, but just those small sort of program fees to keep us going. So big thanks to them. I've got just a couple more here. Since I have a captive audience, I just wanted to do a couple of quick shameless plugs, not really for the after-school program, but maybe for you all to connect with the Science Center. First Friday night of every month is a mixology night. That's adults only, so we kick the kids out, and until from 5:30 to 9, it's all just adults only, and you can have your run of the exhibits and have fun and not have to worry about competing for exhibit time with a young one. But if a family crowd is more your scene, then come back the next week. That's our family night. Special discounted tickets and specialized programming. Different themes, like this last month was science of sports. New series that we started just a couple of years ago, where we bring in a scientist and have them give sort of an informal talk. A lecture is not the right word to use, but it happens usually at a local cafe or a local pub or a bar, so it's a little more adult themed. Just who is researching how on the nanoscale, how cancer cells form. And so he's actually farming tiny little cancer cells to research, and fascinating stuff. And so he's going to give his talk here. Big celebration of all the nanoscience happening around the state, and that's going to happen here at the Science Center. And then the next month we have our next Girls in Science Initiative event, which is called Coffee and Careers, where students that are in 11th or 12th grade can come and have a cup of coffee and hear professional women scientists talk about their experiences in STEM. A lot of great Girls in Science Initiative stuff happening here at the Science Center. It's been one of our big focuses the past about year and a half or 2 years. So I'd encourage you to check our website. If you or any of your family or any of your and I'll give it up, I promise. But coming up this summer, some of you might have heard of Make Magazine. It's all sort of a DIY, think like Instructables. The best way that I can kind of describe it is creating with STEM and then adding arts. So it's a lot of creativity, but a lot of science behind it. Tinkering is another word that gets used a lot. And so it's all, think of people out in their garage, kind of putting stuff together, whatever your passion, whatever your hobby is. As a maker course site, that sort of middle logo there. And so we're going to have, coming up here this summer, 2 makers in residence that will help us sort of do some making around the Science Center, leading up to a huge maker fair that we're targeting here for Labor Day in 2014. So I put a picture up here. This is by no means exhaustive, but this is the kind of stuff that you see in making. A lot of popular things there. Robots is a big one, Lego, but really just anything that you can create is a huge part of that. So if you or someone you know is looking for fun stuff to do, this is us burning through metal with a torch made of bacon. This is a wolf spider that we captured that turned out to be pregnant and had approximately 1 billion little gross spider babies. This is us making a giant pool of oobleck, which is a substance that acts like a liquid until you apply force to it, so you can actually run across it and not fall in, which is really cool. So it acts like a liquid until you apply force, and then it becomes a solid. So what's better than a kiddie pool full of that stuff that you can run around with outside? With too, if you'd like to reach out that way too. And I guess I'm not done with shameless plugs. The Science Center has a great Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube that actually posts a lot of different science articles and science content. So it's not just all advertising. In fact, our YouTube channel is great. We do a Science in 60-ish Seconds series where we show an experiment and talk a little bit about the science behind it. And we found that a lot of teachers are using that in their classroom, which is really cool. And I see, Kristen, you asked, how far can science at your site travel? All 99 counties. In fact, about a year ago, we went with our first out-of-state outreach, just a little bit across the border into Illinois. And then I got a call about a week ago that someone in Kansas wants us to come down, so we're trying to figure out how to make that work. But yeah, anywhere in the state of Iowa.
Wonderful, and looks like we have some more people typing here.
Oh, you're very welcome.
And if you're on the conference line, feel free to just say your questions on the line.
Oh, thanks, Barbara.
Looks like Vic has a question.
Can we arrange for a visit in June? So our biggest challenge, actually, and it sounds weird that summer would be our busy time, our biggest challenge would just be finding a date that we could come out to your site. But yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. Oh, and Brittany, yeah. Far do we travel anywhere in the state of Iowa? You name it, we'll be there. One of my favorite schools, I shouldn't play favorites, but one of my favorite schools is Rock Rapids, Iowa, which is about a 4.5-hour drive from Des Moines, all the way where Iowa, Nebraska, and Minnesota meet, way up in the northwest corner. But it's just a great group of kids up there that they're a lot of fun to do some science.
So you're
They just have a really great energy. I don't know what it is about them.
Part of your comment was breaking up for some reason.
Sorry?
I'm not sure if it's our line or...
Just a great group of students. I think maybe because they're not so close to a science center or anything like that, that they're just really excited when we come out and are super eager to dig in and get a little messy with the stuff that we bring. Do we work with families as well as youth? Yeah. Do sort of what I call festival outreach. Things like the state fair or maybe a family science night or something like that, where we might be set up at a table with some small activities, and that's something that we could do. Me an email and we can have a conversation about what that might look like too. Sounds great, Barbara. Yeah. If you would just drop me a line and we'll get something together. Present on certain programs. Yeah, we'd love to do that.
Great. Well, I will end the recording here, and I just want to thank Joe so much for doing this webinar for us and for linking the Science Center activities with after school and out of school time programs. We've been encouraging our programs to link with STEM and science activities, and so this I think will be a great resource. So we just want to thank